Hi everyone and welcome to Opinionated, a series of video essays where I cover my experience of a game and at the end I'll tell you what I liked, hated and would change. Today I'm talking about Megaman X. Released for the Super Nintendo in 1993, it was a critical and commercial success and is still regarded as one of the best games in the series. Luckily, to own this piece of gaming history you don't need to rob a small bank or turn to piracy, as it's available via the Legacy Collection. The X series is based 100 years after the Mega Man timeline. Reploids, which are sentient robots, live alongside humans. However, a faction of Reploids see themselves as above humans and stir up an insurrection. Aiding the humans are the Maverick Hunters, the rookie X and his mentor Zero. The leader of the Maverick revolt is Sigma, who is supported by his second-in-command Vile. The series is still pretty light on story during this SNES era. It wouldn't be until X4 on the PlayStation that an overarching plot would begin to link the entries. As basic as it is, it's still nice to have some context to what you're doing in the game. X1 doesn't deviate too far from the Mega Man formula. You'll have a choice of 8 bosses. Defeating a boss rewards you with their special weapon, which each boss is weak to another's. After defeating the 8 bosses, you'll unlock the endgame stages, which are completed in order and culminate in a final battle. Where the X series deviates is each of the 8 boss stages contain collectibles. Heart containers increase health, E-tanks restore your health, and upgrade capsules that modify your abilities. There are 4 upgrade capsules and I'll cover their effects as I find them. X's unique abilities is his X-Buster that can charge up to 2 power levels, increasing damage and width of the blast, and he can stick to walls which allows you to climb up vertical surfaces. Lastly, a unique gimmick in X1, 3 of the bosses when beaten will change a feature of another stage, and I'll also mention these as we come to them in the video. With that all said, it's now time to start the game. X1 opens up with an intro stage. A Maverick assault has commenced on the city's highways. As a good intro stage should, it teaches you the game mechanics intuitively. A variety of enemies in varying waves, destructible environments, plentiful health drops, and increasingly difficult jumps prepare you for the rest of the game. There is even a clever set piece with the B helicopters that teach you how to wall climb. The level climaxes with a fight against Sigma's Lieutenant Vile. This is a scripted unwinnable fight. Once X's health drops low enough, he'll be caught. Luckily, X's mentor is here to save us and Vile retreats to fight another day. With the intro stage done, it's now time to pick your first boss. You'll notice all the bosses in X1 are based on animals. This is another difference between the two franchises, and in the X series it definitely makes for more varied battles than the Robot Masters. This is also not my first rodeo, and I kinda had an idea of how I was going to tackle the bosses. I'm also a creature of habit, and the first boss I go for is always Chill Penguin, solely because their stage has the Unmissable Boots upgrade, which gives X the ability to dash and will minimize backtracking and help make boss fights easier. There is also a heart tank in this level, but I don't have the special weapon for it, so I'd have to miss it for now and head straight to the aforementioned boss. Chill Penguin is a reasonably easy boss to beat. They're not very mobile and their attacks are well telegraphed. The main things to watch out for is being frozen by their breath or touching the sculptures, which do obscene amounts of contact damage. Penguin goes down and I obtained a shot ice weapon. Its use in my opinion is limited to exploiting 3 different bosses' weakness. The Maverick weak to shot ice is Spark Mandrill, but before I enter that level there are preparations I need to make so I can collect everything in one run. Without this prep, it can take up to 3 runs to get everything. So, first thing to do is cause the air carrier from the intro stage to crash into sparks, so I head to Storm Eagle Stage, the airport. I collect my first E-tank in the control tower, but I totally forgot where the heart tank is. I thought it was much later in the level, but where I looked was just an extra life. There is also a second upgrade to attain here past these canisters that you can destroy with buster shots. Inside is the helmet upgrade, which is actually pretty useless to my knowledge, and its only use is obtaining another upgrade, which I'll be doing in the next stage. Next, Storm Eagle, where the fight takes place atop the air carrier from the intro stage, a cool bit of interconnecting story elements. Storm Eagle is a doddle to beat with the dash boots, as their most dangerous attack, a vortex that pushes you back quickly, is nullified by the dash boots, and their other main attack, dive bombing, is easily dodged with a timed dash. They also have no iframes when doing this, so I counter them and victory is mine. I received the Tornado Storm weapon, which is pretty useful as the vortex stays on the screen for a while and does damage per frame, allowing me to exploit enemies that don't have iframes. The boss weak to Tornado Storm is Flame Mammoth. Yeah, the irony of that isn't lost on me. Also, as I've beaten Chill Penguin already, the factory level is now frozen over, making it very easy to complete and allowing me to grab an otherwise inaccessible heart tank. I also grabbed the arm upgrade located up this conspicuous alcove. It's a tricky jump as you need to hit the blocks with your upgraded helmet and there isn't much room for error. If you mess this up you have to restart the level. Anyway, it's an arm upgrade that increases your X-Buster's charge level, so it now can charge up to level 3 and also charge special weapons. But I never really bothered with the charge attacks, I think they consume quite a bit of weapon energy and don't deal that much more damage, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, Flame Mammoth is another pushover. They have a limited range of attacks, with their worst being the attempts to jump on you. If you're on the ground when it lands, X will be momentarily stunned. The Tornado Storm can sometimes hit Mammoth twice, and this battle is quickly wrapped up. My reward is the Flamethrower, my favourite of the special weapons. It's an economic weapon that deals constant frame damage. The range is short, but it's super useful for wrecking regular enemies. Chill Penguin is weak to the Flamethrower, but they're on the junk pile, so I only played the Arctic stage again to collect the heart tank I couldn't earlier. There's still one more thing I need before I take on Spark Mandrill, Boomer Karanga's special weapon. Boomer is a difficult fight without their weakness to homing missile, so I head to the less difficult boss Launch Octopus instead. A cool gimmick of this stage is the Flamethrower doesn't work underwater. Fortunately the Tornado Storm does, and I rip the enemies down here to pieces. In this level, the only collectible to find is a heart tank just after the Ore Derrick. Destroying the attack boat nearby will cause it to destroy the ground below when it sinks, opening an entrance to an adjacent chamber. The Serpentine Reploid inside only takes damage to the head and the tail. The Storm Tornado does great work here and rips the mini-boss to shreds, and I grab the heart tank. Launch Octopus can be a difficult foe, even with its weakness, and it took me a couple of attempts to succeed. The missiles it fires cover considerable range, and avoiding them is difficult. What I wanted to do is this Whirlpool attack. It's useless against the dash boots, and as soon as the Whirlpool dissipates, I can counter for easy damage. The second fight goes much more smoothly, and I'm rewarded with the Homing Missile special weapon that does have some uses outside of boss weaknesses, but is overall a low damage weapon and sparingly used. With the homing missiles, I'm now happy to fight Boomer. This level is unique to the others as it's navigated vertically and offers some unique combat scenarios. It's also the only level that you must replay, as you'll need Boomer's special weapon to acquire the heart tank on this alcove. Boomer is no challenge at all against the homing missile. Every strike resets their attack pattern, so I can keep it looped in a holding pattern. Defeating Boomer rewards me with the Steel Cutter weapon, that is also the only special weapon that can interact with drops and collectibles. Now I have it, I immediately complete another run of the stage to collect the heart tank, and that's me done here. Before heading to Spark stage, I've one last upgrade to collect, which is on Sting Chameleon stage. I have everything I need to complete this level in one go, including Chameleon's weakness to Steel Cutter. The two collectibles are conveniently in the same place. The heart tank requires Launch Octopus's level to be completed, which floods some sections of the woods. At the cave entrance, slide down into the pitfall and the camera will track, revealing a hidden chamber. Now it's full of water, I can dash jump to the other side and collect the heart tank. Now for the capsule. I head back up out of the water and dash to the alcove of the cave and climb up. A wall comes crashing down behind me and I'm ambushed by a large grappling maverick. This thing has a really repetitive pattern. Sadly it has iframes and I can only damage the head, so I resort to using the X-Buster. Once it's destroyed, the capsule appears and I obtain the armor upgrade, which reduces damage by 50% and is pretty essential in my opinion. With my spoils found, it's time to take the sting out of Sting Chameleon. Anyway, the Steel Cutter resets Chameleon's pattern and I juggle about the room until it's destroyed. The weapon I receive is the Chameleon Sting, and I sit here wondering if this was a translation issue. Anyway, Storm Eagle is weak to this, so it's not much use to me now, but it does have a useful charge effect where it makes X invincible, but I forgot to use it in the parts it's most useful. But moving on. Now I'm ready for Spark Mandrill, whose level is looking a bit banged up. Normally in this first section, electricity pulses along the floor that you have to avoid. Beating Storm Eagle has caused the aircraft carrier to crash into the power plant, disabling the generator. As well as making this early section easier, it also provides access to this area, and with the Steel Cutter I can collect the E-Tank. The next section, however, is a little harder thanks to the lack of power. As you can see, this room has numerous pitfalls with flying Reploids trying to knock you into them. No power makes the lights flicker on and off, so I just have to be mindful where the falls are. The mid-stage mini-boss is much easier as well. It's unable to absorb electricity to attack with, and is now only able to do contact damage. It's a tanky foe, but the Storm Tornado makes light work of it. The last collectible is the heart tank hidden up on this alcove, and I use the Steel Cutter to collect it. Now on to Mandrill, another boss easily exploited by its weakness, the Shot Ice. Every hit freezes Mandrill, resetting its attack pattern. I wait for the arms to fling up and fire another shot at the wall, which I do for timing's sake. I keep this up and Mandrill is finished off with no bother. I received the electric spark and now it's time to finish off the last of the 8 bosses. The last few times I played X1, this has been the last stage I play, mainly because Armored Armadillo is one of the bosses that's difficult to beat without the special weapon they're weak to. Anyway, this level takes place in the mines and has some fun minecart sections that are guaranteed to make the SNES slow down, which still looks cool to me today because it just looks like everything is in slow motion. Falling down a mineshaft will cause this Reploid to chase you, but if you jump back up quickly you can sneak behind it and grab this hidden E-tank without needing to backtrack. The next mineshaft has the last collectible, the heart tank, only this time you fall behind the Reploid. The flamethrower makes quick work of it, so it's down before it can destroy the alcove I need to reach the heart tank. The final minecart section holds an intriguing secret. I don't remember the setup, but following specific steps will cause a hidden capsule to appear at the top of the cliffs after the cart exits the mine. This unique upgrade gives X the ability to perform Ryu of Street Fighter fame's Hadouken that will kill bosses in one hit, but obtaining it is out of the remit of this video. Moving on to Armored Armadillo, I hit it with the electric spark which blasted its armor off and now allows me to damage it at all times, even when it's doing its very damaging rolling barrage attack. If you don't have the electric spark, Armadillo is only vulnerable when it's firing its head cannon, and it becomes a rather difficult fight with long periods you aren't able to do any damage. Anyhow, the weapon I receive is the rolling shield, which launched Octopus's weak tooth for clarity. It does have one other use to me, and you'll see that later. With all 8 Mavericks defeated, I can now access Sigma's base. In the original Mega Man series, the Wily Castle levels were renowned for their difficulty. In X1, the base stages are quite short and pretty easy. One of the few examples I can give you of difficulty is navigating these floating platforms over a huge pitfall. These Reploids can be annoying, swooping in to knock you off. I forgot to use it here, but the invincibility buff from Chameleon Sting simplifies matters. Anyway, Vile reappears as the mid-stage boss. I forgot that it's another scripted fight when he's in the war machine and I almost waste an E-tank. Zero sacrifices himself once more, destroying Vile's armor, and X gets fully restored before we fight him properly. Vile's a very fast opponent and doesn't let up on attacks. I never mastered this fight, but hitting him with his weakness the homing missile finishes him pretty quickly. Just before I get to it though, just look at my foolish self trying to get up this tower. I was getting so frustrated trying to get up here. I was swearing like mad and stressing, but that's what happens when you forget the invincibility buff. Anyway, I finally make it up, deal with the rematch against Boomer Kamanga, and then it's time for the Arachnoid boss. This thing can be tough if you end up with bad RNG. As you can see, the spider rapidly descends down the 4 poles, transferring pole to pole by the nearest branch. You only have a short window to plot its route, and if you mess up and get hit, you'll miss the window to attack. Near death it speeds up, making the fight more aggravating. I down an E-tank to keep in the fight and finish it off with the ice shot for extra damage. The next stage is really not that difficult. There's nothing that really tests me. Rematches with Chill Penguin and Storm Eagle are bumps in the road, then it's on to the stage boss, Rangda Bangda. This boss comprises of 3 parts, a blue eye that rams you, a red eye that fires energy orbs, and when the nose is active the walls close in. It takes massive damage from the Chameleon Sting weapon and is the easiest of the endgame bosses by miles. Not much more to say. The next stage is basically a boss rush against the remaining Mavericks, culminating in a battle with an advanced tank unit that splits into 2 pieces. Whilst it's quite an aggressive boss, always pressuring you, none of its attacks do huge damage. The attack I struggle with most is this giant energy orb. You can dash beneath it, but the timing seems to be quite tight. Anyway, I exploit its weakness and wrap up the fight quickly, conserving my resources for the final stage. And prepared you should be. Sounds silly, but I didn't realise you don't get a single password for finishing any of the Sigma base stages. As easy as they are, if you lose all your lives at any point up to the final battle, you have to redo all the base stages again. I don't know why they did this. I can only assume it was to pad out the game in one of the most cheapest ways possible. Anyway, if you do need to top up weapon ammo or E-tanks, you can farm these caterpillars in the starting area. Finally, I come face to face with Sigma, who brushes X off and leaves me to battle his mutt. It's weak to the shot ice and primarily attacks by dashing from wall to wall. I don't know what happened to it this time, but for a chunk of the fight it glitched out in the corner and not doing very much. It's pretty weak and goes down without much trouble, which is essential as I'll need all my E-tanks for the final phase. Sigma returns for the second phase and finally deems X worthy enough to fight. Sigma does do quite a lot of damage, but has a repetitive attack pattern. I bait him into following me up the room and I drop shot him when there's enough room beneath him to dash under. I rinse and repeat this strat, hitting him with the electric spark for a bit of extra damage and he goes down with little trouble. Now the final phase begins with Sigma merging with this giant mechanoid. This fight can be pretty difficult, everything does huge damage and you can only damage Sigma by hitting the head at the top. The claws block you getting up and constantly fire bolts, so sitting on the hands or wall is an easy way to get destroyed. As you can see, it's not a tidy fight and after a few restarts I do get a better flow. I find the rolling shield does the most damage, but you have to get close to get it to connect. Consistency is what wins this battle, and that's it. Sigma is defeated. I would like to say that that's the end of Sigma, but as this is a Mega Man game, that's not going to be the case. So with the game completed, it's time to get into the details, and as always, I'd like to start with the positives. Firstly, I really like the graphics. The sprite work is detailed and the character and enemy designs are cool and interesting. A lot of environments are well detailed and for the most part visually interesting. Complementing the visuals is the amazing sound design. The X series is the edgier, cooler side of the Mega Man franchise, and the electric rock soundtrack emphasizes the 90s cool teen vibe. My top 3 favourite tracks are Spark Mandrills, Storm Eagles, and lastly is a toss-up between Launch Octopus and Boomerkaranga, and I think the latter takes the third spot. Controls are also really good, very responsive, and forgiving hitboxes make the game feel fair. I never felt like the controls were fighting against me or that the button mapping is poor. In fact, button mapping is completely customizable, which is pretty great for a 1993 game. I'm going to take my rose tinted glasses off and be as critically brutal as I can, and I'm going to start with the difficulty. X1 is very easy. I expect they wanted to make this entry as appealing to a wider audience as possible, but it's too far the other way. For starters, the secondary effects of special weapons when exploiting boss weaknesses are overpowered. The Sigma base levels do not challenge you at all. I played Mega Man 1 last year and those Wily Castle levels were pretty much straight up brutally unfair. There was definitely a middle ground they flew right past. Coupled with the low difficulty, it's also a pretty short game. This run took me around 4 hours I think. There's no difficulty option when you finish the game. If you want to make any sort of challenge, you'd have to impose restrictions on yourself. Upgrade versatility lacks imagination. The helmet upgrade is almost pointless. The X-Buster upgrade seems nice, but I've never found a reason to use the charged special weapons other than for looks. I know from X2 the upgrades improve, but it's a shame they couldn't come swinging out the gate with this one. Now when it comes to things I'd like to change, hands down is a difficulty select. I would add hard mode, change enemy placements, add pitfalls or spikes, and disable secondary effects on bosses. There isn't much more I would change. A difficulty modifier would also improve longevity of the game, so it'd be a 2 birds 1 stone kind of deal. Overall, Mega Man X1 is a fun game, and now that you can get it as part of a collection, the short length of it doesn't have as much of an impact. I appreciate they must have spent a lot of time in pre-production, deciding on the direction they would be taking the series in the 16-bit generation, and that may be why some elements aren't as fully fleshed out. It's a piece of gaming history though, and if you've never played X1, I wholly recommend giving it a try. As always, many thanks for watching. I'm Parabellum, and this has been Opinionated.